Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy.
Good morning.
Here we are again in mid-September, and we're having a good time with the covenant, blessed to be a blessing, and we've been talking about desires of your heart, and we gave a couple of great examples last time of you enjoying the pool, you and Dan enjoying the pool. What are some other things that you have experienced of God kind of giving you the desire of your heart and just syncing up some things that you've enjoyed, you and Dan have enjoyed? What are some of the other things that you've enjoyed?
There are so many. One that just comes to mind, though, that I'd love to share actually has to do with Anna and her summer job. I don't remember if I shared this with you or not, but just I think it goes to a good example of processing desires of our heart with God and stuff too. And as we were approaching summertime, she graduated in May and heading off to college, so this was going to be her last summer at home. Yeah. And one of the things we were talking about is really, what is your desire for this summer? What would that look like? And talking to her about processing with God, hey, what are things that you really would love? And so she started to make a list of what would be important to her and how she'd love to spend her time, and then took that list and surrendered it to God and prayed over it. And, and things on there. She wanted good quality time with friends. She wanted good family time. She wanted the freedom to do some traveling that we were planning on doing. And typically she has been a camp counselor for every summer, which of her working years anyway. And that can be super fun for her, but also very demanding and full 40 hours a week and doesn't pay phenomenal and all of that. But it's been great experience for her. But anyway, she really wasn't feeling like that's how she wanted to spend this last summer because she wanted rest and refreshment going into the year and just to have some quality time. So there were some key things that she put as a desire of her heart on that list, and then begin praying over, okay, God, what do you have for her for a job in the summer that would meet these? And as we were talking and praying about it, one of the things we laughed, we're like, what would be really ideal would be if you just had a job on Wednesdays and Thursdays, because then we'd have long weekends, we could play, and oh, by the way, it'd be great if it paid as much as your full-time job would have, and we're just kind of like, then we can sit by the pool and like, oh yeah, then we can have more, we talk about the pool, we can have more pool time together, all of this. And lo and behold, had we no more prayed and spoken that, a few days later, she gets a text from a neighbor that she typically babysits for. And not sure if you're interested in this or not, but I'm looking for a nanny for the kids this summer, but I only need it for Wednesdays and Thursdays. And by the way, I'm paying you X amount, which in those 2 days, she would then make equivalent to what she made working full-time for camp. She's next door for the summer working those, and one of the things that she does with the kids is bring them to sit by the pool, so I get to hang out with her even. But it's just, that's one of those sweet things that it was like, okay, God, what is important to you? This is important to me. What's important to you? And praying about it and surrendering it, and then watching him just deliver it up and say, do you see that I see your heart? And I delight to give this to you, and it's going to be a blessing. And then he continued to speak over that to her in incredible ways, purpose over why he even assigned her to those children. And it's been truly a blessing, things that she has been able to share and pour into them for this summer. And her parents, I was just meeting with the other day, and they were talking about just what a light that has been, and what a phenomenal influence, godly influence, she has been on them for the summer. And so again, it was giving her the desires of her heart, giving me the desires of my heart as a mom. And it was this flow through, blessed to be a blessing, because in delivering that desire, he also blessed that family, blessed those children. And it's just been amazing to watch the whole thing flow together.
Yeah. And as she kind of recognized that, what all by itself did she delight in experiencing that she knew that God had given her desire of her heart? And so it's that, well, first of all, I'm enjoying the stuff that I'm getting,
Right.
receiving, but there's even a higher level of delight in, I now know that God delights in me because I see that he's the one doing
It's
it.
so personal.
Yeah.
It shows you this personal side of God, that he really is. He knows your heart, knows your desires, because he wired you.
Right.
He made you that way. He has placed these desires, and when you're walking with him, he places desires for what his best is in your heart, and then delights to give them. And you do come away. I think that was a real strong growing point for her, just even to see, as she's heading off to college, that reassurance. He sees me personally and is so invested in the details. I simply need to stay with him and ask him and surrender, and what he has is truly best, none better. So why would I want something else?
Right. That's right. And as we talk about it, remember, it's God says, I want to, if you delight in me and I delight in you, which is relationship, he delights then in delivering in what I call syncing up circumstances, things in life, events, real things that start to excite you.
Right. And it's truly comical sometimes to see how he orchestrates them,
Yeah.
right? As only he could do.
Yeah. It's really spectacular. So that he says, I know that, he says, I know you because I made you, I created you. And remember, we're unique. We have certain abilities, passions, interests, things that excite us. And that's what's so beautiful about the body of Christ, is that there's no universal activity or thing that everybody likes. For example, I really like snow skiing.
Right.
And going to the mountains and skiing downhill and going fast, and I can even do moguls periodically.
Anything where you get to go fast, you like, don't you?
I do. But other people, it's like, I don't even like thinking of snow. And so it's not. Let's all try to figure out the way to go. It's that God says, I know you so personally.
Because he made you.
Because I made you, I'm going to deliver to you the true desire of your heart. And you just mentioned for me that I like going fast. I do, in cars and skis and whatever. I have loved the aspect of driving race cars, if I could, and even at one point thinking about owning one, which God helped me realize that what he really want. I like driving fast. He said, well, let me have you experience that. You don't have to own one. So you might think
enjoy someone else's.
That's it. You might think it's a desire of your heart, but actually what a desire of your heart is going fast in a race car. Let me deliver it to you, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that and fulfill your desire of your heart. So I happened to be on a board of a manufacturing company out of Ohio, and we were working on an acquisition in Italy. And it was a cool experience of abiding. The whole board was with believers, and we abided, and the deal that we were trying to make just didn't come together. And we didn't force it, and we kept asking, Father, what do you have to say? And he basically said, not yet, and it wasn't right yet. Yeah, there's reasons why you want it, but not yet, and walk away from it. We did. We said we can't do it that way, and we walked away. A year later, the company comes back and says, we've reconsidered. We know your position. We'd like to now go and try to make your position work for us. Could we re-engage? Yeah, sure. And so we did, and the leader, CEO Morrison, he processed it, and they made a deal, and we acquired the company. The company is in Modena, Italy, which is the headquarters of Ferrari.
Oh, wow.
So they said, let's have a board meeting over at this new company. And
well, if I have to.
And like, okay, sure, yeah, I'll suffer for that. And bring your spouses, and we did. And they said, Morrison said, I'll arrange for us to spend a day going to Ferrari, and they have a racetrack that you could, race cars. And great, hallelujah, and yes, I'm in, let's go. So we go. And the racetrack is about 45 minutes to an hour away from where you have to meet at the factory. So we're all going to get on a bus to go to the racetrack, and we're just standing there, just waiting for the bus to come up, and then we're all going to get on it. And while we're standing there, a driver comes over to me and says, "Would you like to drive the Lamborghini? We need to get the Lamborghini to the track. Would you like to drive the Lamborghini to the track?" And I said,
"Again, if I have to."
I said, "Yeah, let me pray about it." Yes, of course, And he said, "Okay, you come with me. You other guys, you got to ride the bus." But Rich, and it was just come with me. So we go, and so we're getting in the car, and he's got to teach me again. It's paddles and race car. It's a race car, and I got to ride it over, and so we're going on traffic in the road, and it's a 2-lane road. And so I'm going, I'm just going the speed of traffic, and there's cars in front of me, and he says, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean? What am I doing? I'm going the speed of traffic, and I can't, I can't pass these cars because there's cars coming the other way." He says, "Yes, you can." He said, "Do you realize you're in a race car? Don't worry, we can do it." And so he says, "I'm going to tell you, go out there and pass that car." So a car comes, and he says, "Okay, now," and he got to. What you do is you floor it by hitting the paddle, which is the accelerator, and it immediately, goes from going 40, 50, 60 miles an hour to 140 miles an hour.
Oh my goodness!
Boom, and you're around.
I get anxiety just hearing this story. You're
around the car, and that car's coming, but you're around it. He said, "You see?" So the whole time, I'm driving. I'm passing all these cars, with not a lot of room to get in between, but he helped me do it, and
I'm glad Linda was on the bus.
Right? She was not with me. Yeah, she was. She'd be screaming.
She'd be squealing the whole way.
So we got there in about 30 minutes, and the bus got there in about an hour or so. But and I was talking to him, and who are you and what do you do? And he said, "Well, a couple years ago I won Le Mans." So you won Le Mans. Yeah. Wow. He said, we won it. And I said, "Well, what was the key, to you winning?" And he said, "Well, first of all, you got to have great mechanics that you got to keep, because you only have one car." And
because they have to change things so quickly, right?
Change it, but you got to have it working for 24 hours. So if it breaks down, you're out. You can't get another car. You got to, so you got to the car's got to last. So you got to have good mechanics and all that. And he said, but two is there's a team of 3 of us, and it's 24 hours, and so we go on for 2 to 4 hours and then off. He said we practiced sleeping, so that when our shift was over, we'd go sleep, and then we were refreshed, and we never got overtired or ever weary.
Wow.
Because we were actually really good at it. Of course, you got to be really good at driving, which he was, and so it was very exciting, and I was thrilled to death, and God gave me that desire. So we go to the racetrack. He's waiting for everybody else to come, and he said, "Okay, you go with me." And now we're on the racetrack. And he's telling me how to go, and I said, "Okay, you go around the racetrack." And the racetrack is an oval. It's a what's called a Formula One racetrack. So it's sharp curves and straightaways and all kinds of things, typical Formula One. So you come around as you're getting in front of the entrance. There's a very long straightaway. And that's when you go as fast as you can. So I do, and I like going fast, so I'm going fast. And then as you're coming up, there's a wall, and because of that wall and a sharp curve, you got to really slow down and take the curve. So I do, and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I don't want to hit the wall." He says, "You're not going to hit the wall. Okay, next time, I'm going to tell you what to do." So go around again. Okay, he said, "Now we start the straightaway." He said, "Okay, punch it," and I'm going 200 miles an hour.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm getting ready, and for me, what I had done is I had braked to slow down. And he said, "This time I don't want you to brake. And you hit the downshift paddle when I tell you, and don't do it until I tell you." And so okay, so I'm going 200 miles an hour, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to hit that wall. There is no way I'm not going to hit. And he said, "Nope, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it." He said, "Now," and you downshift, and you just immediately comes right down, and you make that curve. And it's like,
wow.
Oh. And you can imagine, your heart is pounding, but wow, house back. Okay, let's go do that again, So, God at the end of that experience, was, I want you to understand something, that I personally allowed you, even more than the other guys who were thrilled at what they did, but it wasn't the deepest desire of their heart like it was for you, Rich, because that's who I made you to be.
Right.
And do you understand? I gave it to you. And
which gives you a posture of gratefulness too, right?
It's gratefulness,
and just awe at the bigness of God.
And see, the rejoicing goes to a higher level because, first of all, it's just rejoicing at the experience,
right,
or the thing that God's doing to give you this thing. But on top of it, you really recognize the personal delight of God to deliver it. And the fact that he did, and it took a special set of things for it to happen, because he said, "I can orchestrate this." And then your rejoicing goes into the depth of that relationship. Is look at what God the Father cared about enough about me. And that's why this desire of your heart isn't well, that seems kind of self-centered. No, it's a way for God to show you his delight, which then raises your delight in the thing itself, but also in just a relationship if God cared enough about it to deliver it, because I can deliver it. So let's look at another verse here, Psalm 20, 1-6. We've been in Psalm 37 and Psalm 21. Let's look at Psalm 20, 1-6.
Sure. May the Lord answer you in the day of trouble. May the name of the God of Jacob defend you. May he send you help from the sanctuary and strengthen you out of Zion. May he remember all your offerings and accept your burnt sacrifice. Selah. May he grant you according to your heart's desire and fulfill all your purpose. We will rejoice in your salvation, and in the name of our God we will set up our banners. May the Lord fulfill all your petitions. Now I know that the Lord saves his anointed. He will answer him from his holy heaven with saving strength of his right hand.
Yeah. So he's kind of taken this to another level of, basically he says, I called to God in trouble. Okay, so think about just fundamentally, what does that mean? What's happening to me if I'm calling to God in trouble?
I'm in some kind of distress. I need an answer.
Yeah.
Something's going on. I feel like I need help with. I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. There's now there's a difficult circumstance. There's a business issue, a financial issue, a relationship issue,
a sticky wicket, as you call it.
A sticky wicket that I can't seem to solve. And as far as I can see, it's not working out or gonna work out because all I see is trouble.
Right.
And by the way, we know, as we've talked about, Jesus said in the world, you're going to have what?
You're going to have trouble.
You're going to have this trouble. So don't be surprised by it, that this thing just happened or this business issue just happened. Call out to me. And he says, I'm going to give you the desire of your heart. Now, this is really cool. When you're in trouble, what's the primary desire of your heart?
That it would resolve.
Get out of it. Have it be resolved. And so he says, when you're in that spot, yes, you have a desire for this to not last very long, for this not to overwhelm you, for this not to characterize your life, but rather to be resolved. So what I call it goes off the table because you don't even think about it anymore. It doesn't concern you anymore. Let me resolve it. So he says, let me give you that desire as I now line it up to bring resolution to the very thing that you have. Now, here's what's really amazing about that. When we have trouble, our perspective is really fundamentally just what? Just get it over with.
Get it done, yeah.
Just get it over with. And I'll be happy if it just gets over. Even if there's kind of a negative consequence, but at least it's over. And okay, great. That's a fundamental desire. And God says, actually, what I want to do is take what was intended to harm you, is I want to turn it into spectacular. That your experience with this isn't going to be okay, kind of, or it's over, but rather let me turn it into spectacular, because I can deliver what was intended to be not good or not healthy and harm you. I can turn it into something beautiful. So we have great examples in Scripture. For example, Joseph. What happened to him? His brothers did what to him?
Sold him off into slavery and threw him in a pit.
They threw him in a hole, and that was it. They thought he was gone. And so his, what his brothers intended for not good, well, he gets picked up by Pharaoh, and now he's basically a servant to Pharaoh. And of course, he gets some favor there, and Pharaoh gives him privileges, and along comes Pharaoh's wife. And what does she try to do? Seduce him.
Yeah.
And try to tempt him.
And ends up turning on him.
And he says, no, that's not of God. That's not me. I don't have a heart for that. And she says, okay. Then she accuses him, and he gets thrown in jail. So not only is he not at home, he's been a servant, and now he's in jail. What happens? Well, he befriends the jailer, serves that guy. The jailer says, well, you're pretty skilled. I tell you what, you run, don't leave, but you run the jail, and whatever you do, and you do. And by the way, while that happened, the jailer and other people have dreams.
Right, and Joseph interpreted those.
And he says, what do these mean? God says, well, because I'm going to give you wisdom, I'm going to do that and give you understanding. And so he does. And then Pharaoh has a big dream, and he said, I don't know anything about this. What is this? And the jailer happens to hear it and says, hey, I know a guy, Joseph, he can do this. Okay, well, bring him out here. So he goes out, what's the dream all about? And Joseph tells him, 7 years of bounty and 7 years of famine. You better prepare and get ready. And he says, I received that. I tell you what, I'm going to pull you out of jail and put you in charge of this thing, which he does. And he builds storages, and they store instead of using it.
And they
store
prepare
it.
for it. Yeah.
Prepare. 7 years of famine. Guess who shows up?
His brothers.
His brothers from Israel, who are in famine, and they don't have provision. And Joseph, through his favor, gives him bounty and saves Israel. Okay, so what and it says what they intended for evil, God did what?
He restored. He used for good.
He used for good and made it spectacular. See, so that it wasn't like, well, Joseph, you just don't have that trouble anymore. But rather,
and in fact, he was in that trouble for quite a while.
Yeah,
still.
in a variety of different levels. And so God says, what I'm doing is delivering the desire of your heart to give you spectacular when your first thought is, I'm in trouble, what do you have to say about this? And what is it that you want to do, to deliver this, to me? And God says, I can turn something that is mediocre and difficult. Not only will I resolve it, but I'm going to move you to the spectacular. And I'm going to do something new that even though you were in trouble, it doesn't characterize you and it doesn't limit you, because I can deliver, the beautiful, the fantastic, the spectacular of what I have to give you. And
in the process, he refines us too.
Yeah.
And that's just a beautiful gift that he uses any and everything to refine us and make us more like him when our heart is surrendered.
Right. And so, we've been we discipled, particularly through abiding. I've had couples that come and they sit across the table, and they basically said, we're at the point of we're going to separate and divorce. Because there's so much trouble, there's so much turmoil, there's so many sticky wickets. We just don't even like each other anymore, and it would seem like it'd be better to separate than that. And I said, I understand. Would you have a heart to let God restore it? Well, I don't know, well, let me show you what it means to abide with God, walk with God. He'll deliver you the covenant and take the trouble that you're in and translate it into spectacular. And of course they don't believe any of that, but it's okay, I'm willing to. And then all of a sudden they start abiding, they start hearing, God starts resolving it. As far as they're concerned, they're just wanting to get out of trouble. And what God does is say, not only did I get you out of trouble where you could at least be together, now I'm going to give you a spectacular life. And one of the exercises we do is the desire of their heart, and they start to experience the grand, the spectacular, because God says, when you're in trouble, your primary desire is just to get out of trouble. What I'm going to do is not only get you out of trouble, but I'm going to deliver to you spectacular living and experiences and blessing that is going to be overwhelming to you, because you had a heart to go, and allow me to do that. So as we think about the desires of our heart, again, it can kind of come from couple of different directions. One is, there's just things I like driving fast. I'm not in trouble about it, but I really like driving fast. Is that something that God says, let me deliver that to you in a variety of ways, and I'll thrill you in life to be able to do that. And then when you're in trouble, I know your desire is to say, could you help me with this? Yes. And I'll take that and deliver it even more spectacular if you have a heart to go, because I can bring blessing, covenant life, and by the way, you'll receive it. And then when you receive it, guess what? You'll tell other people about it. And when they're in trouble, what are you going to tell them? God can do this for you. Come and learn it. So it's really an amazing thing of God says one of the great benefits, and it's actually a benefit for him, is he said, I get to deliver to you the desires of your heart and give spectacular living to you. So it's really remarkable.
Awesome. He is so good, and he is glorified in the midst of it. And I know even as we conclude this conversation, there's probably people who are listening that also are like, wait a second, what's the difference between that and name it, claim it?
Yep.
So maybe next time we go into that just a little bit and help people to see, even looking back on your story, how on the driving fast, wanting a car versus God refining your heart and refining the desires to match what he wanted to give you, which was truly what would bring your heart joy.
Yeah.
So, some of those things I think will be good to talk about next time.
Yeah, and just a little tease on that is that if you go to that name it and claim it, interesting enough, and we'll talk about the why of that, if you go to that place, you actually have disqualified yourself from receiving it. It's really interesting that it absolutely isn't of God, because there's something
Yes.
about it that we need to understand, that you
Yeah.
can't go that way.
Right. So let's talk about that, because
yeah.
I think that is where people struggle the most when we have this conversation. And
Yeah,
so
sure.
just
Yeah.
fleshing that out would be great.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks so
yeah.
much.
Go ahead.
I'm
no,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say thanks for joining us, everyone. If you have any questions, be sure to send them in to questions@afjministry.com, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.
Yep, we do. We'll see you then. We'll talk about that. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.